One of the privileges we have as a church is getting to have missionaries who are in town all at different times come and share. So this morning, Brian Moore, come on, Brian. Brian and Megan and their 4 kids have been in Germany for about 6 years, I think he just said. So it's my first time meeting Brian, but Brian's going to come share with us about what's going on in Germany, and then we'll pray for you, of course. So Brian, come.
Thank you, Pastor Tim, as well as Christian and Lee, for having me today. It's so good to be back with you guys. I was just telling them when in there, it was 2.5 years flies by. It's really unbelievable that it's been that long since I or my family have gotten to see you, and it's really good to be back. So thank you for having me this morning. I'd love to catch up with all of you afterwards. I don't have any agenda. My daughter's being spoiled by her grandparents at the moment, so she's happy for me to stay with you guys for a while. You may recall that when we left last time, we said we were going to serve the church, to connect the church, and then ultimately to build the church. And I really would just want to report briefly on how that's going. We went to serve the Neuenberg International Church in the far southwest corner of Germany. There I served as the assistant pastor and was over the kids ministry and just very typical church things. And my wife served as the women's ministry coordinator, the small group coordinator, and we just tried to jump in and help every possible way we could. Our denomination there, it's a Reformed Presbyterian denomination, has 8 churches and 8 pastors, and they're very eager to have any help they can. And so that was one of our first hopes and efforts, and that's really what we've been doing for the past 2.5 years. In addition to that, MTW sent us down there to connect with this church because they are a part of this Reformed Presbyterian denomination, albeit small, but nevertheless a very exciting and excellent opportunity for us to come alongside brothers and sisters who are like-minded with us to build up this partnership so that we might help them grow, we might give them resources, and just generally help them any way we can. And so what that's looked like is I've been able to attend all the various other churches to fill their pulpit when they need it, which, as I said, with only 8 guys across 3 countries, that there's not a long list of people to help. So to be flexible to be able to do that has been great, and just to get to know them and encourage them that they're not alone has been a really wonderful blessing. But now we're coming to the last step of it, which is to build the church. And one of the ways that we've seen that, there's a lot of ways to say it, but long story short, if you want to have Reformed Presbyterian pastors who are like us, or not just pastors, deacons, women's leaders, all sorts of people, you got to have churches that are going to nurture these people. They just don't grow on trees. And so one of the things that we want to do now is put our foot forward and say, well, we'll help plant churches for you. And so I never thought I'd be planting a church in Germany, much less in the U.S., but that is what the Lord has for us next. And so I'm happy to tell you guys about Christ Church Freiburg, which is about 25 minutes north of where we're living now. It's a town immediately of 250,000 people, but with a metro area of about 700,000. There's a large university. It claims that 163 nations are represented there. But in many ways, it's also just the next step. In many ways, just if Northside were to plant a church, you probably wouldn't plant it in Missouri. You'd probably just go to the next town over, whatever town you might think that would be strategic. And that's what we're doing. We're just growing naturally and normally. So our church and our denomination is sending Megan and I and our kids to do that. We're taking along 2 families with us. And our vision is really just to be a Reformed church in Freiburg that seeks the lost and makes disciples. And to briefly explain that, all we really mean by that is we want to be a church that's associated and rooted in historic Christianity, that's preaching and believing in the Bible, and we want to be God-centered, Reformed. We want to be in Freiburg. I could show you, if I had a lengthier presentation, I have a map that shows all the 73 churches in Freiburg, which you immediately might say, 73 churches? Why in the world are you planting a church in Freiburg? And you'd be right if you just saw the map as it was. But if we were to whittle it down, take away the Catholic churches, take away the state Protestant churches that do not believe this Bible or anything in it, if you were to take away the Pentecostal churches, some of whom are our brothers and sisters, many of whom are not, if you were to take away all the churches who are church buildings and claim to have an association with historic Christianity, and only stand beside those who actually believe that Jesus was the Christ, that actually believe we have sin that needed his atoning death, and actually believe many of the other supernatural or truly wonderful things about our faith, then we would be left with 3 churches. And that's why we're going, because we believe the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. And so we're going to seek the lost, and that will look like things like having a university ministry. That'll look like reaching out to the poor and homeless. Freiburg is a city very much like Asheville, North Carolina. A lot of people have apparently been offended when I make this comparison, so if you like Asheville, I apologize. But it's got all the same wonderful, beautiful things about Asheville, but also some of the same inner city life that that city tends to have. It's the gateway to the Black Forest. It's very liberal in both a political and spiritual sense. And so it comes with a lot of the same challenges. So just by way of comparison. And we want to seek the lost within that. But we don't want to just seek the lost so that we can fill our pews. We don't want to just seek the lost so that we can report home to all these people that are coming or not. We want to make disciples. There's a purpose. There's an end in which we have in mind. Because we recognize that we're not always going to be missionaries. We're not always going to be in this. We're going to be beholding the Lord one day. And we want to be growing from one degree of glory to the next. And be a church that's always keeping people mindful of our movement to glory with the Lord. And so that's what we hope to do. And in many ways, we just hope to have normal, ordinary church like you guys do, but in a place where it's not. And so if you would pray for us to that end, we are so grateful for your partnership over the years, the ways that you guys have financially supported us, that you've invited in our family anytime we're in town, that you've just cared for us and prayed for us. We're very grateful to have you alongside us. Thank you for this. And yeah, Lord willing, next time we're in town, we'll be able to tell you much more about what the Lord has been doing in Freiburg. So thank you.